What is going on, guys? Welcome back to Crew 2, and in this video I wanted to go over the Saleen S7 Twin Turbo Glacier Edition. So I'm sure a lot of players know this, but to get this vehicle you will have to buy the Motor Pass, and the second you buy the Motor Pass you're going to get the Saleen Unlock. Now I'm not going to lie, this might be one of my favorite looking vehicles in the entire game when it comes to the body kit that is on this car. Plus the rims also look absolutely incredible on this vehicle as well, so I think Ubisoft did a really good job on the overall design of this vehicle. I'm pretty much liking everything about this car so far. Even the fitment on this car looks really good as well, so I really cannot complain about it. We're going to have the carbon fiber on the splitter there on the front with the blue color going around it as well. Like, they really did an incredible job with this vehicle, plus the interior is also going to be a really nice white color, which also matches the white calipers on the rims as well. And can we also appreciate the detail of the rims, by the way, guys? I love the blue going around them. I also do believe this is going to be stock rims on the Saleen, because I did notice that when looking this car up earlier. And I really do love the overall design of this. I really cannot get mad at it. I love the wrap on the vehicle, which if you guys would like to, you can remove that and or add one to the car. Personally, I think this thing's going to be one of my favorites in the entire game when it comes down to the design of it. And even the back of the engine on the vehicle is also colored to match the overall vehicle, carbon and blue in there as well. I absolutely love the overall look of this car. Now, even though this thing looks really good, the big question is, can it actually perform pretty decently in overall races and or summits? And even if you guys wanted to try this thing out in PvP, I would personally only use this vehicle for like grinding out races and all that, trying to get some extra money and or followers, or even going after more parts for that matter. I feel like this car is going to be perfect for that. But from the testing I have done, I would say you could probably run this thing in summits and all that. The only thing that might hurt it is going to be its top speed, which we'll get into that here in a second because I do want to test that out. We all know how the lovely Bugatti Supersport 300 Plus is probably going to own this class for a while, but that doesn't mean some of the other hypercars can also be used on some of these smaller tracks, because I have noticed the acceleration on some of these other hypercars are going to be just as good as that one. The biggest thing is the longer tracks having that lower top speed might hurt it, but nonetheless, guys, let's go do an outside look of the S7 Saleen right now. Then I also want to take this thing on a quick top speed test in these salt flats to see what it can actually get to. Then we definitely have to jump into a hyper race to really test out its overall performance. And now, taking an outside look of the S7 here, I'm really digging this vehicle overall, and I would like to know what you guys think about this Motor Pass in the comments below as well. I would say this is one of the better looking Motor Pass vehicle variants we have seen in a while. But let's take a look at the interior right now in this vehicle. So I do think this looks really good. I love the white color there with the interior, plus we're going to have that really nice carbon fiber. Moving down around this as well, you can see the carbon fiber on the handle, on the side of the door, plus the really nice white interior with the stitching there, which I do believe the stitching is blue. It does look like that anyway, plus the blue dots on it. I do like the fact that they didn't make the interior of this car blue, because I feel like that would kind of be overdone, but how it looks like this with the white mixed in with the blue stitching just looks really nice. And what I also find really cool is the fact that the rims are actually painted to match the car as well. I would love to have more rim customization on the Crew 2. I'm sure a lot of players would probably love to see that as well. Let me know what you guys think about that in the comments below, because I feel like a lot of the base rims on this game really do not look that good, and I feel like a lot of players probably don't like them either. But let's take a listen to that engine. Now, taking a look at the top speed of the S7 here, I do want to see what this vehicle can actually get to. Now, I do have a feeling, though, it's probably not going to be the fastest car out there, because the regular S7 really wasn't all that quick either. But nonetheless, I don't think a lower top speed is really going to hurt some of these vehicles in many of the races, though, because if you guys are like grinding out money and or followers and maybe even parts, you can still get most of that completed with any of the hypercars if you really wanted to. But I feel like the higher top speed is probably going to affect the car in a negative way if you did want to race it competitively. Or maybe you wanted to jump into like one of the summits and all that, which I would say this car could probably still be used on those. But let's see what the top speed of the S7 is right now. Let's get over this hill. Please don't hit the car. So now, hitting the nitrous right now, the car is going to hit 296 miles an hour, which when I was testing it out in some of the races there, I was doing about 295, then going down the hill the car hit like 297. So I would say, without wasting a lot of nitrous, the overall top speed of the S7 is probably going to be around 295, which is what I normally hit with this car when testing it out in a race. Now, I'm sure many players might be like, well, that's kind of low compared to the Bugattis, which honestly, you're not wrong. Most of the Bugattis do over 310, which is definitely going to be an issue on the longer events there. If you guys are racing against that vehicle, they're going to be faster than you no matter what. But one thing I did notice though is the S7 is still going to be a great competitor. I personally found this car to be really fun to race in the hyper events, and you can get a lot of money and followers doing that. But if you did want to like race it competitively in like a summit, or go after like the best time on some of those longer events, and this might not be the greatest option for that. But let's go jump into the Hollywood hypercar race right now, and I'll talk about this vehicle a little bit more. So now jumping into the hyper race here with the lovely S7, so there's a few things I did want to go over with this vehicle. For one, I have a feeling the top speed of the new hypercars, and basically any of the new ones for that matter that might be added into the game, are most likely going to be at some type of disadvantage now compared to pretty much all the Bugattis and definitely the 300 plus. Now, I do want to mention this though guys, I would say that's not going to make many of the hypercars useless, but having cars that are going to be that fast, it's going to be very hard to pick other ones. Like, for example, if your friends are all running the 300 and you like jump into the S7 here, you're going to be slower than them regardless because you're in 6th gear trying to accelerate past 270, and they still have another gear to go at 270, so it's definitely going to be a bit of an issue if you're wanting to race in that aspect. But for the most part, I would say the S7 is going to be just fine for like racing in general and or like grinding out parts or maybe followers and money and all that, which is probably what I'm going to use this car for as well. I'm probably not going to use it in summits and all that because I try not to use motor pass vehicles in those because I know not everybody has these vehicles and or plans to get them, so I really do not find that fair to every single player. But I still find the S7 to be pretty dang good even though the top speed is under 300 miles an hour on this vehicle. Now one thing I also wanted to mention when driving this car a little bit is going to be the handling. So we can all agree most of the hypercars handle pretty decent to a certain extent when it comes to higher speeds because, well, they kind of have to handle pretty good when going like 270 plus miles an hour. I did notice the S7's actually pretty decent as well, but one thing I did notice about this car when driving it is it does feel a little bit more twitchy than some of the other ones. Now I did adjust my handling a little bit on this, aka the pro settings on the vehicle, and I really didn't see much of a difference with that. So one of the ways I ended up testing out the S7 was I decided to lower the ARBs and some of the suspension comp as well, basically in the rear of the car, which is pretty much the only areas I actually mess with this vehicle anyway because I don't see the point of messing with the front suspension. But nonetheless guys, after doing that, I did notice the car was a lot more twitchy that way, and sometimes it would become really annoying to drive around turns, like you'd oversteer and or understeer as well. So I found it to be better with having the ARBs and the comp a little bit higher. I found the car to be a lot more stable that way. And to be honest, I would say the S7 Saleen is going to be a really fun vehicle to use in like races and or like grinding out parts and stuff as I mentioned before. But using this vehicle in like competitive racing and going against like Bugattis and all that, the car might struggle a bit. But for the most part, we can all agree this is definitely one of the coolest looking motor pass vehicles in the game. I personally cannot wait to try out that Dodge Viper because it really does remind me of an ACR. But let me know what you guys think about the S7 Twin Turbo Glacier Edition in the comments below. And here are the settings I'm currently running on this vehicle.